Welcome ladies, Benjamin Selby-Hele here, your resident lifestyle and leadership coach, ready for a massive personal development session today. Now, in this video today, my promise is that by the end of this video today, you'll have identified the areas in your life that you need to work on. So we're effectively identifying your weaknesses. And a lot of us don't really take the time to evaluate our own lives personally, probably because you're always worried about someone else. I mean, that's the general caring and giving nature that I notice in a lot of my female clients. You're so worried about everyone else in your life, be it your kids or your partner or your brothers, sisters, your family members, that you very seldom think about where you're at and evaluate whether or not you're completely happy with where you're currently at. And if you're not, why aren't you doing anything to change it? So if we don't do an evaluation, if we don't personally evaluate and critically evaluate where we're at, we don't know where to focus, and therefore nothing changes. So if you are unhappy, you don't become happier because you haven't identified what it is that's making you unhappy. The best part about self-evaluation is that you can establish your starting point. So you know where it is that you want to go, you know what it is that you want to achieve. You can generate that laser focus I've talked about previously, on really focusing in on the action you need to take and then actioning that change. So making the change happen and moving towards more fulfillment and more enrichment. And that's what we want to achieve, I think. I believe we all want to achieve that in all our lives. So I want you to ask yourself, why is it so important for you? Why is it so important for you to understand where you're at in respect to various fields in your life and what it means to be, a 10 out of 10 in each one of those fields? What does that look like? And why is it so important for you to get there? Just jot down a couple of notes as to why it's so important for you to be striving towards that 10 out of 10 and to know where you're currently at. All right, so we'll jump into the principles. There's only 3 key principles I want us to focus in on in order for effective self-evaluation. Now, firstly, before we actually get into the self-evaluation itself, these principles need to be adhered to. So firstly, you've got to be brutally honest. So be brutally honest in each one of the departments. There's 14 areas that establish our lives. In each one of those areas, you've got to give it a mark out of 10. So you've got to be brutally honest. Think about the best coach or the best teacher you've ever had. Did they just tell you were great all the time? No, more often than not, they gave you constructive criticism. They forced you to push a little bit harder. They set challenges out to you. But they were brutally honest when they had to be. Now, if you can adapt this ability within yourself, then you'll become more successful in any one of your endeavors, because you can critically analyze where you're at and then identify what it is you need to do in order to move forward or in order to achieve a particular outcome in a particular field. So be brutally honest. Secondly, it's like I mentioned before, what's a 10 out of 10 for you? So in all those 14 areas, relationships, health, financial, business, work, what does a 10 out of 10 look like? Talk in terms of an image. What is like a 10 out of 10 in that family field of your life or that family portion of the evaluation? What does that look like? Is it everyone communicating effectively? Everyone at home and safe and provided for? What do your 10 out of 10s look like for each one of those 14 fields? Thirdly, the third principle we need to remember, once we've done all that evaluation and we establish where we're currently at, it's only through action that we get results. So it's one thing establishing where you're at, but it's another thing entirely getting to that 10 out of 10. Only the actions you set in place and actually instigate will allow you to get to that 10 out of 10. All right, so how do we do this? How do we do this life evaluation? All right, so below you'll see the 14 fields that I've given you that formulate your life. The 14 areas of your life you're going to evaluate. You're going to give them a mark out of 10. So 10's the most awesome, 0 being the least awesome. Give each one of those fields a mark or a score out of 10. Secondly, you want to identify the areas that you want to work on. So identifying your weaknesses, as we mentioned at the start, that's what we'd be identifying. So identifying the areas where you're perhaps really low and you're not happy, and the areas that you want to work on and improve. It might be you want to improve on all of them, but there's going to be areas that need more work and will have more urgency on them than others. Fourthly, you want to create and identify actions that are going to allow you to improve on those areas. So once you've identified them, you've got to identify the actions that are going to allow you to improve it. So if communication with your family is one of them, what's the action that's going to, it might be at a 4. What's the action that's going to allow you to improve that and get up to a 10? What does your 10 look like? Is it everyone being upfront and honest with each other, expressing their feelings, talking daily? So you're going to, make the family sit at the table of an evening without watching TV and talk to one another. What are the actions that are going to allow you to get there? And then lastly, once you've identified those actions, you've got to follow through and you've got to make the change. So we complete the evaluation, we identify the areas that we want to work in, we identify the actions that are going to allow us to get to a 10, and then we make the change. So it's a pretty simple course of action. So I want you to take a moment to think about how it'll be. How would it be if each one of your areas in life was at a 10? How awesome would that be? Now, very seldom are we ever at a 10. I don't believe in the 10s. I believe in the 9s, but there's always room for improvement. But how awesome would it be if they were all at a 10? Think about that for a moment and what it would look like. And remember those key principles. In order to do this effectively, you've got to be brutally honest. Think of your favourite teacher and how they interacted with you. Identify your 10 out of 10. And then remember that actions will get results. All right, ladies, that's all we've got for our personal development component today. Enjoy that exercise. It's going to form some big revelations for some of you, I have no doubt. Remember, focus on your process and the things that you want to change. And most importantly, enjoy that journey because it's yours. So enjoy it because you don't get another one. And I'll see you in the next episode.